Hello, I'm Jeff Witham, the current rules interpreter for the MIWOA. I will be reviewing the rule changes for the upcoming 2013-2014 season. This will include NFHS rules as well as the new MPA rules and instructions. Please email me at jwitham@unum.com with any follow-up questions. First of all, one of the big ones is coming from the MPA is that weigh-ins this year will be done by coaches and or ADs and not by the referees for dual meets. Any issues or disagreements will be addressed by the official upon his or her arrival later in the time before the meet starts. This is to allow referees to have a little bit more time for their day jobs as opposed to having to be there for an extra half an hour early. Coaches, please read the rule books very closely as far as what you are to do as far as weigh-ins are concerned, how the weigh-ins are done, what you're looking for skin problems, and classifications and so forth. This change is forthcoming in the MPA Wrestling Bulletin. It might not be there at this point in time, but it will be there soon. And along with any other important information as it becomes known. Next on the MPA Wrestling Bulletin, some of these will also be repeated when we talk about the actual rule changes from the Federation. Key points are the use of TV or film by coaches or wrestling during the meet is prohibited. Referee Federation Rule 10.1.2. That's actually last year's rule. In the Federation book now, that is actually changed to allow to be done, but the MPA has decided to keep that intact. In other words, schools and parents may video, may video action, but the video cannot be reviewed during the day of the meet by coaches, wrestlers, or team personnel. Of course, it can be reviewed by parents, but it cannot be looked at by coaches, wrestlers, and personnel. So that really has not changed for the state of Maine. It has changed for the rest of the country. Another large one, of course, is the forfeits are no longer considered as matches wrestled when considering the 5 matches in 1 day limit. That used to be, no matter what kind of match it was, forfeit or a full match, it was considered one of the 5. And now what we're saying is, or what the Federation is saying, forfeits are no longer counted as one of the matches. So if someone has a forfeit and 4 matches, that's really and 4 regular matches, that only counts as 4. They're allowed to do another one for that day. So that's good for some of the matches and some of the meets and tournaments where you have 5th and 6th place and you have wrestlers going for those positions and they don't hit that limit anymore, or there's a less chance of them hitting that limit. Next one is something that actually takes place next year, but for some reason the Federation thought it was wise to give everyone a full year's notice on it, and that has to do with headgear. Headgear that is used to hold or protect hair or have hair covered needs to be attached to the ear guards, whereas before it was either underneath the ear guards or on top of the ear guards. Starting next season, not this season, it'll be needed to be attached to the ear guards. This is a great thing, I think, for everyone, because so often good flow, good wrestling is stopped because of the headgear falling off on top of the slippery hair cover or vice versa, and this will help eliminate that. But they're giving everyone a full year's notice on that, probably to allow budgets and money to be saved that needs to be done for that. This one is strictly an MPA rule. And it so states, if a school fails to honor a committed match or matches on MPA schedule, the school shall be fined $100 and the head coach will be disqualified for the next scheduled countable match or matches due to unsportsmanlike behavior. From what I understand, this has happened a few times over the years for various reasons. So the bottom line is, if it's scheduled and someone does not honor that schedule and does not show up, or shows up and refuses to wrestle, then that's what happens, is a $100 fine to the school and the head coach is disqualified for the unsportsmanlike behavior. Another one is really a highlight. I don't believe it's a change so much, but it really has to do with terms and conditions of the seeding process. And highlighted in red here is coaches are responsible for ensuring that their records are accurate and up to date for the regionals. I don't believe that's any different than any before, but they've highlighted it to make sure everyone knows that you are responsible, coaches, to make sure your information is dead on accurate. The other one too here was also, I believe, just an emphasis, and that is if a coach is dissatisfied with an official decision on a misapplication of a rule, he or she may appeal. That appeal must be in writing and go to the protest committee for further review. The coach and the wrestler cannot leave the wrestling area during an appeal. And the wrestling area, I believe, we consider the mat itself. So they need to stay on the mat, talk to the official as far as the appeal process goes, get a piece of paper handed to them so they can write it down, and then it'll be handed to the protest committee for resolution. That's something that comes up occasionally, and people forget the rules as far as leaving the mat or leaving the area. The other one here from the MPA, good sportsmanship banner criteria, reminded that in the 2013 and 14 school year, wrestling will utilize online balloting for sportsmanship banners. And I believe it's probably going to be the same survey and ballots as before. It's just the fact that they will be online, and which will allow coaches and whoever gets to vote to be able to do it online in case they miss the meeting where they vote by hand or by paper. And the last one from the MPA, just a reminder for folks that the varsity cost for a wrestling dual meet is $63.50 this year, and that turns out to be $4.53 per match. If there is attached teams with less than 7 wrestlers, that's what you would be charging for a varsity match for those attached wrestlers, $4.53 a piece. Or of course, the full dual charge for what qualifies as a full dual is $63.50. JV, I believe, is still $2.50 for a JV or exhibition match. Other key highlights coming from the Federation this season that I haven't already hit is just a reminder again of the electronic devices from coaches to allow them to communicate with an active wrestler on the mat is still illegal and is continued to be illegal. Of course, that they blend that in with the video recording rule. The video recording, as we mentioned before, is acceptable as long as coaches and other team personnel don't look at it during the day of the match. But that is what the electronic device, assuming it, which it means is a microphone, and the coach is with the coach, and a hearing piece with the wrestler is illegal. Coaches can have, from what I understand in the casebook, coaches can have electronic communication between themselves and other coaches to talk about matches that are going on the other end of a gym or something. That is legal. That is legal. We already talked about the forfeit being changed to no longer is considered a match, so we won't have to go talk about that anymore. The next one is, we talked about hair covers, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. The next one has to do with artificial limbs. I'll just read the comments here. The intent of this rule change is that a wrestler has the option whether to use or not to use an artificial limb during competition. Of course, that means they need an artificial limb. However, if a wrestler chooses to weigh in with the artificial limb, which means it counts towards his gross weight, then the wrestler shall wear the artificial limb during competition at all times. So if he weighs in for a 132-pound weight class and he weighs in at 131.5 with that artificial limb, that is his weight class, and he needs to wrestle with that for the rest of the day. Vice versa, if he decides not to wear an artificial limb, that is his weight class when he weighs in without that artificial limb, and he cannot wear it for the rest of the day. So whatever he weighs in with is what he'll be wrestling with, and the opposite. Let's see, the next one has to do with a bad time. This is a clarification on one of the situations where bad time would require more wrestling to be done, and one of them they've added is after the 2-point stalling call has been given during a match, if the official does not give the offended wrestler choice after the 2-point stalling call, which is a new rule last year, that will be considered bad timing. And so that's one of the highlights here for officials and referees is that would be bad time. That would not be able to be compensated for at the start of the next period, like so many other times it is. Just going to go through really quick. I believe that is most of them. As far as the changes for this year, again, for the most part, there really isn't a lot that has to do with the action of wrestling on the mat. Most of them have to do with administration, weigh-in times, or points awarded during downtimes. It really isn't a lot of changes as far as how wrestling is being done or not done. Again, please contact me, Jeff Witham, at jwitham@unum.com if you have any questions about these rule changes. Thank you very much and have a good day.